Good evening, everyone. Jay Saki here, Doctor of Cinema. I bring you another review. So Indiana Jones went on a mission to find ancient relics, the Ark of the Covenant, and eventually the Holy Grail. Me, I'm on a mission to find ancient relics also. Only my mission is to find the top 5 greatest Bob Hope movies ever made, so future generations don't have to sift through all the horrible Bob Hope movies just to find the good ones. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, I am putting aside the road movies, which, as you knowledgeable folks know, are supported by both Bob Hope and Bing Crosby's acting. Those movies might be half decent, but I'm only analyzing the Bob Hope movies when he's not paired with Bing Crosby. Obviously, in those movies, they can play off one another and work with one another. I am removing that from the equation. In this situation, he's paired with Lucille Ball in the 1950 comedy Fancy Pants, which is the film I'm reviewing. Yes, this movie came out the same year Sunset Boulevard and All About Eve came out, which in my opinion are both great films. On a personal note, I enjoy keeping track of what movies came out in the same year so I can compare the quality of filmmaking from that time. This is so when people excuse bad filmmaking in older films by saying, "That's just how they did it back then and you can't judge those movies by the standards of today," I can then say quite clearly that I'm only judging by the standards of back then, and I can point to other films that came out that same year that did it so much better. Ever hear of the soft bigotry of low expectations? Granted, that's a buzz term in current day politics, but I apply it even in judging art. Stop lowering your expectations of art. You would not watch a good movie and say, "Shame on them for putting that much effort into it. They should try less hard like all the bad movies out there." Now, I will be fair and say Fancy Pants is a comedy, and comedies generally have dim plots because the point is get to the laughs, so it is unfair to compare it with Sunset Boulevard, but it's still educational to compare the difference in directing and film techniques around the time. But let's get to the core of tonight's discussion. What was Fancy Pants about? So the story takes place in 1912, and Bob Hope is an American stage actor in England, and he, along with the cast of a play, are hired to come to New Mexico to pretend to be real British people in some scheme. And Bob Hope is supposed to be pretending to be a real butler because I guess in the stage play that somebody saw him in, Bob Hope was playing a butler on stage, and so he's just now he's playing the part of a real butler in America, of a real British butler in America. And then some rich lady takes a strong liking to Hope and insists she hire him as her butler, and Lucille Ball plays the lady's daughter, and Ball thinks this is a bad idea, and then there's hijinks. So, was this movie any good? Well, no. It's about as sloppy and, it's almost as bad as Monsieur Beaucaire from 1944. So, like, at the beginning of the movie, and I'm going to go right through it. I'm going to explain the things because I took notes along the way. Like at the beginning of the movie, Bob Hope is, a stage actor playing a British butler in this mystery stage play, and Bob Hope is, of course, being a complete klutz on stage, and he trips and spills a platter of tea on one of the other actors, and the audience groans and is like, "Oh gosh, this is awful." But the point is, it's supposed to be like a bad play, not very well put together play, but I'm thinking in that moment, well, how does the audience know that that wasn't part of the play? How do they know Hope tripping and spilling tea on the other actor wasn't just part of the bit? They don't know that. but the movie treats it like they do know that, so that didn't make a lot of sense. And then, I guess after the play, someone shows up and is like, I need you to come visit me in New Mexico for reasons, and the exposition is sputtered out so fast. Maybe there was a nice way they could have led into that, but it was just like, quick, get the exposition out so we could get to the comedy. It was a blink and you miss it kind of a deal. I think they could have had better delivery on that. They could have segued into this person's scheme about why she's wanting them all to come to the U.S. for reasons. One of the actors in Hope's troupe of actors is like this crazy guy who talks a bunch of gibberish. And I don't know why that's funny. The guy just goes, and the idea is no one understands him. And I wasn't sure, like, is this like a thing from back then? Was it spoofing somebody else? And the more this guy kept going and talked in it unintelligibly, like it was supposed to be funny, like it just was not funny. Talking unintelligibly is not funny, or maybe I don't know, or maybe it is, or maybe it can be, but whatever they were doing there just fell on its face. Lucille Ball was interesting because she, definitely did not act like she didn't act like her Isle of Lucy self. She actually acted outside of that. Usually someone, if you've been playing, you would think that from playing Lucy Ricardo for so long, that would be the only thing she would be capable of doing, or at least that kind of a performance. But Lucille Ball actually, she was actually quite good at acting like someone else. She was just like the one rich lady's daughter, because the rich lady is like, oh, Mr. Hope, I need you to be my butler, because I would love to have a British butler, because you're so smart. And Lucille Ball is just cynical and mean throughout the movie. And I kept almost forgetting that it was Lucille Ball. It's like, wow, Lucille Ball, you actually have some acting chops. And I think I heard that, actually. I think I heard that Lucille Ball was actually a pretty serious actor, or actress, if you will. But she's mostly just known for the Isle of Lucy show. And Lucille Ball, the whole point with her is she doesn't seem to find anything funny. And to be honest, for most part, this movie was not very funny, so I was with Lucille Ball, like, leading me through the movie. But, although, now, not to say, I did have some laughs and some giggles. Like Bob Hope at some point said, "Don't tempt me. I can resist anything but temptation." And I know that's pretty dry, but I chuckled at that. And then when he's trying to be the butler, he's like, would you like to have some scotch over scotch? That's a pretty childish line, but I'll be honest, it made me chuckle. And then there's a part when someone's trying to introduce this other woman. It's like, this meet my daughter. She's a bit shy. And Bob Hope said, shy of what? It was a pretty terrible attempt at humor in that moment, but I was reminded of myself as a young teenager asking something similar after someone said something to me, and obviously I was super retarded as a teenager. So my moment as a teenager reflected that moment in Bob Hope asking shy of what, and I laughed. It's hard to explain, but hey, I'm just trying to relate to you how it is I digested this movie. Bob Hope asked a retarded question, and I in turn was reminded of what a retard I was. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that is kind of funny because people can be just that stupid. Yeah, so basically if you watch the movie, and if you said, no one's that stupid, I was that stupid. I was that stupid when I was younger. I know, someone out there is thinking, Saki, you're that stupid right now. This movie had some inexplicable musical numbers, at least 3, where characters break into song. Bob Hope has one where he sings about, I guess, being a butler or something like that. They sing about home cooking. Oh yeah, so the whole thing with Bob Hope is, all throughout the movie, the idea is he's supposed to be, passed off as an actual, legit English butler. But he's always constantly overacting and being a klutz and spilling things. And everyone's like, oh my, these British butlers just get things right. But I'm like, no, he's getting everything wrong. He's a clumsy fool. Why would you want to hire this guy? But the idea is like, oh, he seems to be the quintessential British butler that a rich American would want to hire. But he's not. He's a complete fool the whole movie. He's tripping over himself. He's spelling things. Obviously, you have to have that because they need to make Bob Hope funny. But it didn't make any sense as to why anyone would buy him as an actual English butler and not an actor pretending to be one. Oh, yeah, and eventually, Bob Hope gets mistaken for being an earl, a British earl. And then he has to pretend to be a rich British aristocrat. And once again, he's acting crazy and nuts. So why would anyone actually think he's a British earl? It's supposed to be funny because it's like, oh, he's supposed to be pretending to be a British earl. But then they make him act the fool, and I'm thinking people would be walking away from him in a few seconds if he acted this way. And I know it's a comedy, they're trying to get the comedy in there, but it's getting its wires crossed. And I can say Casanova's Big Night did it better, because in that movie, I've seen other Bob Hope movies where Bob Hope is pretending to be someone he's not, and he's still being klutzy and being an idiot, but he's still walking the line of believability and charm. That did not happen in this movie. So I can point to the other Bob Hope movies, specifically Monsieur Beaucaire, and heck, maybe even my favorite brunette. He did it better there. I would say overall, I really enjoyed this film near the beginning. I once heard a saying that is, you would assume priests would be scandalized by sin, but sin is just what they work with on their operating table. Likewise, most would assume that I'm scandalized by bad films, but, I like to think that bad films are just what I work with. I can actually enjoy a bad movie, because I enjoy the education of analyzing it and figuring out why it doesn't always work. But in this case, I think I was only enjoying it for about the first half, I could put up with how poorly put together it was, but it was enjoyable. Okay, I get to see some Hope and some Lucille Ball. I get to see some hijinks. It's not too bad. Get cozy, drink some beer, enjoy. But by about an hour into it, I was growing quite tired, and I could say by the end, I was really happy it was over. So in conclusion, what did I learn from all this? Well, I learned that New Mexico became a state in the year 1912, so add this to the schooling curriculum. And I think I learned this film is not something I ever have to revisit. I dug for gold in the wrong place, and I have to try somewhere else. But, Jay Saki, might you be chasing a myth? Maybe there are no good Bob Hope movies. Aside from Casanova's Big Night, which we acknowledge is decent, have you seen any other good Bob Hope movies? Well, no.
Well, how do you know it's really there?
I think I have a worthy rejoinder.
Some things you see with your eyes. Others you see with your heart.
So I shall continue searching unto the ends of the earth, and maybe the end of time. But I'll find them someday. I just have to keep searching, audience. We all have to keep searching. We all have our demons to conquer, and we all have a mystical, unknown, great Bob Hope movie we need to find. And if we're not always searching for something, then we are but empty shells wallowing in an ocean of sin and emptiness. And if you can't understand what I'm trying to say, well, I promise you someday you will figure it out. Have a good night, everyone.